Time and time again, I see business owners and entrepreneurs entering into partnerships without asking the right questions that ultimately protect the business and yourself. If this sounds like you and you want to hear my 10 questions to ask before entering any partnership, stay tuned and let's get to work. Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Junior and I'm here every single week helping answer your questions and pain points when it comes to starting a business, growing your company, and ultimately using your real-world experience and turning it into a profitable business. So today I'm going to be going over the questions that I always ask before entering any partnership. I always answer these questions personally, and I always send them to any potential partner or partners to answer individually as well. Now, the list of questions may vary given your industry or size of your business, but ultimately, these are the questions that I think are going to get you well on your way to make sure your partnership gets off on the right foot. Now, to be fair, there's actually about 100 questions in total and 10 main topics, so let's jump right in. First up, we have our general questions. Now, these questions don't necessarily have a particular category they fall into, but are super important nonetheless. Some of these questions can include, is valuing cash over sweat equity something you agree with? Another question also could be, does having control of the business matter to you? Or what are your goals from this partnership? Asking up front if your partner values cash over sweat equity is something that could be extremely important as the business grows. Time and time I see the people that invest the dollars feel that the dollars are more important than the people that are investing the sweat equity. And the opposite is also true. The person actually doing the work sometimes feels that their work is actually more important than the dollars that are invested. So it's important to know and discuss with your partner, depending on what angle they're coming from, which one of those two items do they think has the most value in the business. One of the mistakes I see so many business owners make is they typically want to be fair when they're coming into any partnership agreement. But when you ask your partner if having control of a business is important to them, people are going to be surprised by their answers. Sometimes your investors don't want control of the business. Typically, control means they're doing more work and ultimately they're responsible for the direction that the business is going. And some passive investors absolutely don't, but an entrepreneur will offer 50% or more of the business anyway. By asking your potential partner if they want control of the business or if it's something that's important to them right off the bat in the general question category can save you some equity and ultimately dollars down the road. Some other questions you may want to ask in this category is, where do you see this business in 1, 3, or maybe 5 years? Another question is, are you currently invested in any other businesses in or outside of this industry? You want to ask these questions in particular because if you have a partner that has other businesses, but they're valuing their time as part of their equity or their investment in your company, you want to understand what the ratio between this company versus the other companies that they've invested in are going to be. Another question that you want to ask here is, how are investments in the same industry going to be treated? For example, is it going to bother you if you have a partner or investor that's invested in the same industry potentially with one of your competitors? It's important to know that day one. I've been in several partnerships, some where it's fine having a partner diversifying and investing in a particular industry or sector, but then the last thing you want is to be surprised by a partner that secretly is invested in potentially a competitor or a neighboring business. So you want to ask these questions up front and get clear answers right off the bat. Okay, so category number 2 is communication. Understanding how your partner or partners like to or want to be communicated with is absolutely a fundamental question that most people miss. It took me years to get this question right, but now I have it down packed and I want to share with you some of the questions I ask when it comes to communication that I think ultimately could help and benefit your business. So the first question you want to ask here is, what form or method do they prefer communicating? Do they like getting phone calls? Do they like getting text messages, emails, maybe even a Zoom conference? Asking this up front can help you decide based on the topic, issue, good news, bad news, or problem, what the best form of communication is going to be for a particular partner. And if you have multiple partners, you'll be surprised at how different everyone's answers are. Now, the meat of the communication questions typically fall into three main categories. One is what topics need to be discussed on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, or a monthly basis with your partners. In my experience, depending on your business or your industry, these questions can vary greatly. But in my experience, typically the daily communication needs between partners typically revolve around customers or customer issues. Weekly communication needs typically revolve around revenue, sales, and marketing initiatives. And my monthly calls or meetings with my partners typically revolve around ideas, general direction, any pivoting or future investment that the business may need. Communication by far is one of the questions and categories that obviously is going to change over the course and lifespan of your business. But understanding right off the bat the preferred method that your partners like to communicate at varying levels at varying times is going to help you as a business owner deliver. Our third category centers around company structure. Now, company structure can mean exactly that, whether your company is going to be structured as an S Corp, an LLC, a partnership, but company structure also is the meat of the question when it comes to equity, stakes, and shares in your business. Issues surrounding company structure typically arise around the end of the year or during tax season. So you want to get a clear understanding, because if your partner is an individual or a company or somewhere in between, the type of company structure is really going to matter to their bottom dollar. So understanding if your partner wants to be an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp or any of the other options when it comes to company structure, it's important to understand that before you sign the partnership, not after. One of the biggest mistakes I know I've made several times in my career is coming up with an equity structure over a meal or a drink, and that is absolutely the wrong way to do it. What you want to do is you want to have your partner list out exactly what they think is a fair equity position for their value, for their dollars, for their sweat equity in writing before any negotiations take place. You want to see what they value before they see what you value. This always ends up being the right move, so do not make the mistake that I know I have. Hopefully some of you guys can relate by making up an equity position agreement over a drink or a beer at a fun event or a party. It's absolutely the wrong thing to do. Get it in writing, then start discussions and negotiations. Category 4 are questions surrounding the business itself. Now, some of these questions may seem super simple and very obvious, but you'll be surprised that if you have multiple partners that aren't on the same page, how drastically different the answers could be. First up, you want to ask your partners, is the business existing or are we creating the business from scratch together? Now, this sounds like a super simple and obvious question, but you'll be surprised at the answers that you find with your partners, because depending on the experience level, you'll have answers that vary. If a particular partner has been in the industry for quite some time, maybe they used to be in this sector, their answer may vary versus an investor that has tons of investment in that particular industry, but none of the trade or craft experience. Ask that question and see the answers that you get. The next question you want to ask here is, what are the pain points in your particular industry that your business solves? What you're going to find here is you're going to see exactly what your partners value in your existing business and what you value in your existing business. And you'll be surprised that sometimes it may be different. They may think the advantage for your company is one thing while you think another. Some advantages for your business is also another thing that you want to touch on here. Is you want to go over exactly if your advantage is timing, first mover, or is your advantage a license or a particular patent, or is your advantage the team that you've assembled and that your partner is going to be a part of? Asking these questions are going to be absolutely key in the business moving forward and making sure you and your partners are on the same page. So number 5 on our list is going to be defining roles. Now, roles can be something that seems super obvious to some and not obvious and cloudy to others. Understanding what roles you are going to be held accountable for and what you can hold your partner accountable for is extremely key. The biggest mistake I see here every single day is people come up with a title before they come up with a role. You want to take a quick look and examine the business and see what you want to be held accountable for on a daily basis. If you don't want the phone to ring and you don't want every single problem coming on your doorstep, then maybe your role and your title is going to be different than if you're in the office every day, putting out fires, So think about that. Instead of creating a title, then backing into a role for yourself, do the latter. Come up with what you want to be held accountable for on a daily basis. Then that'll help define your role, which ultimately helps you define your title. Let's talk titles. Now, titles is always a touchy subject with some particular partners more than others. You want to make sure you address who wants to be called what before the company's even formed, before the agreement is signed. What this is going to do, it's going to prevent any future awkward conversations that you may have because you think a partner wants to be a chief technology officer when in your mind you're thinking they're more a technology consultant. Understanding what everyone's title is going to be right up front is going to save you agonizing hours of time and misery to come. So make sure you come up with a title that you want. Make sure you have your partners come up with the title they want, and maybe you guys agree, and if you don't, now's a perfect time to get on the same page. One of the final tips I want to leave you with here when helping you define your role and title actually comes from the perspective of your customers. Now imagine if you and your partner fly out to a big company that you guys have been vying to get their business for months, and you get to the boardroom table and yet your partner doesn't have a title. Now your customers may be thinking, who is this guy here at the table and why don't they have a title? Why are they here? That's the wrong place to come up with a title for your partner. So think about that ahead of time. Another issue that your customers may have is when they call your company and they have a problem, but yet you were too bashful or you were too conservative with giving yourself a title, and let's say you're just another guy in the company, the customers aren't going to accept that. They want to talk to a manager, they want to talk to the CEO, they want to talk to a C-level executive to make sure that their problem gets answered in an efficient, effective way. So think about those two things. Don't get conservative there. Don't hurt anybody's feelings. It's not a problem to come up with a title for you and your partners because I think long term it's going to help your employees and it's going to help your customers. Number 6 on our list are questions surrounding business objectives. Now these questions are by far the simplest but are crucial when determining the right partner for your business. These questions can be simply asked in chronological order. It's simply, what are the partnership goals in the first month, the third month, and the 6th month? What are the partnership goals after the first year, the second year, and the third year? It's important to ask these questions in this manner because you want to make sure you and your partner are on the same page in the short term and in the long term. An example could be in month 1 of the business, let's say one partner wants to get an office space, but another partner wants to hire more staff. Not being on the same page for the short-term goal can absolutely derail any success for the business. Now the latter is also the same. In year 5, if a partner wants to sell to a big venture capital firm, and then you have another partner that wants to keep riding all the way, that can also lead to big problems. So you want to make sure you and your partner lay everything out from month 1 to year 5 and make sure you guys are on the same page for your short-term and long-term goals for the business. Now, the good news by asking all these questions is it's a really soft roadmap for your business. And if you and your partner are on the same page, you can look at this document and it can help you determine how fast or how slow your business needs to grow in particular categories. So being on the same page with your partner here can absolutely be the fuel that you need to make your business successful. Question number 7 on our list are questions surrounding finances. You want to make sure you and your partner ask the really tough, awkward questions around dollars and cents day 1 before you get into that agreement. A question in finances can be something like, what is going to be your financial contribution on day 1 or year 1? Now, the answers to these questions may vary depending on the role or title of your particular partner. Now, let's say your partner is an investor and their goal is to sheerly bring the capital. Their investment month 1 may be far greater than you, the owner-operator. The opposite can also be true. Sometimes you're the owner-operator, but you have to double down on your investment just to get that partner to join your team. So be prepared for both scenarios. Another question to ask here is, how are the profits going to be split? And more importantly, how are the expenses going to be split? If a company's operating like normal, but let's say they're new or a startup, the expenses may far outweigh any profit or revenue coming in. Is that the sheer responsibility of the investor, or does the owner-operator or founder have to partake in expenses moving forward? Now, the opposite here can also be true. During profit time, if the profits are coming in and the revenue's rolling in, who gets their money first? Answering these questions now, I promise you, are going to help save your partnership and ultimately have your business thrive in the future. Now I'm going to give you some examples of some questions in regards to finance that not enough people ask. It's in regards to credit. If credit is needed to secure funding to have the business move forward, whose responsibility is that going to be? Asking that in these lists of questions can absolutely help secure funding without any guesswork down the road. Another thing to discuss here is in regards to credit cards. Who's going to be personally liable to get the credit cards for the business? And then also, are credit cards going to be only used for C-level executives, or are they also going to be given to staff? When it comes to banking, are all partners going to be listed on the bank account, or is the owner-operator only going to be listed on the bank account? Do you need a third-party bookkeeper, or is one of the owners or partners going to act as the bookkeeper for the business? And lastly, in this section, you really want to get on the same page with your partner in regards to what expenses are allowable, not only by the executive team, but your staff. Too many times in my own experience, me and my partners have disagreed on what expenses should be absorbed by the company versus individually. So you want to make sure you talk about these things and more in the finance section of your questionnaire. For number 8 in our list of 10 questions you need to ask your partner before coming into any partnership agreement is operations. You want to talk with your partner about the day-to-day operations of the business from day one. You want to ask your partner who's going to be responsible for hiring employees, who's going to be responsible for firing employees, and is there a consensus that's needed to do either? This question is crucial when it comes to building a culture and hierarchy in a company. If you have one partner where all they do is hire the people, and then you have another partner where all they do is fire the people, that could create somewhat of a good cop, bad cop in your company. And if that's not part of the plan, that could backfire and be a problem. The same discussion needs to be had in regards to a consensus. Let's say one partner is out of town and you have a rogue employee that needs to be terminated immediately. Does that partner have the authority to do so? And the same goes for a hire. Let's say you have a great job candidate that they are planning on taking another job if they don't get an offer from that one partner that day. Do they have the authority to make that hire? Those are the things that you need to spell out in this section. Come up with guidelines when it comes to setting salaries or terms for being fired. Discuss those now. The next set of questions in our operation category stem around what type of software and programs you and your partner want to use. If you guys are maybe coming from the same company and are familiar with the same programs, then it shouldn't be a problem. But let's say you and your partner are coming from 2 different companies or 2 different industries. You guys may have a different set of standards or guidelines when it comes to the type of email system you want to use for the company, the type of phone system, the type of bookkeeping system, any lead generation tools. Those are things that you want to discuss, and you want to make sure you and your partner are on the exact same page. Because as you guys know, each software tool, each program comes with a different length of contract, and it comes with a different price. If you guys discuss this now, it almost ensures that your launch is as smooth as possible. Our 9th question of our 10 questions to ask your partner stem around office, space, and transportation. You want to make sure you and your partner have the same brick and mortar goals for the business. In this day and age, there's so many online businesses to where some of these tools aren't needed, but with scale and success, it's almost inevitable that you guys will come to having to make these decisions. Question number 1 is our business reliant on a retail or office space day one? Now, if the business is existing and already operating from an office or a retail space, this decision may be easy, but let's say you're an online boutique, and depending on the scale or growth of your business, you bring on a new partner and you guys aren't on the same page of when you need to get the brick and mortar store, that could be a problem. So ask this question day 1 of your partnership, not in day 90. Now let's say you and your partner can both agree that in month 3, the goal for your online business is to, in fact, get a retail space. You want to discuss who's going to be responsible for negotiating the terms of that retail space, and more importantly, who's going to be the guarantor on the long-term lease. You're looking at a 3, 4, or 5 year commercial space lease. Are both partners going to be on that lease, or is it just going to be the one? The exact same questions can be asked in regards to transportation. Does your business need fleet vans? Do they need vehicles for your staff to get from one place to another on a daily basis? Are those vehicles going to be in the business's name? And if you're new, who's going to be the personal guarantor for all of those vehicles? Who's going to be listed on the insurance as the guarantor for all those vehicles? All of those things are things you want to discuss day one when it comes to retail space and transportation in your partnership agreement. Our 10th and final question in our list stems around sales and marketing. You want to make sure you and your partner have discussed all the proper questions when it comes to how you market and what you spend to get that sale. And we all know revenue is the driver and lifeblood of all businesses, but where partners often differ is how much you spend in marketing to get that sale. I've been subject to those fights many a times in my day. I want to make sure you guys can avoid it with your new partnership. One of the easiest questions to ask here is, are we going to do a monthly marketing spend and do marketing on an as-needed basis, or are we going to commit to a 3, 6 month, or even a 12-month marketing program? Now, the difference could be one partner thinking, hey, revenue's coming in, why are we still spending X amount of dollars in marketing? When the other partner is saying, hey, regardless of how effective our marketing campaign is and how much sales we're getting generated from it, we're going to stick to our 12-month plan because that's what we agreed on. Asking those questions can absolutely save your partnership. You also want to ask who can ultimately decide on moving forward on a marketing decision. Does this also need a consensus, or can one partner or the other make the call when it comes to hiring a particular influencer or celebrity for the brand? Is that something that needs to be discussed and get a consensus vote amongst all the partners? Know that from day one. The final thing you and your partner need to discuss when it comes to sales and marketing is your sales team. How are you going to pay and compensate your sales team? Are you guys on the same page, whether it comes to a salary or a commission structure, or maybe it's a combination? Discussing those things can absolutely save your relationship. Hey guys, so to recap our 10 questions you want to ask before entering a partnership agreement, number 1 is general questions. These are the questions that don't necessarily fall into a particular category, but are just as important to the success of your business. Number 2 on our list is communication. You want to make sure you know exactly how to communicate with your partner and when. Number 3 is company structure. You want to make sure come tax season, not only do you know how the business is going to be taxed, but how you and your partner are going to be taxed individually. Number 4 on our list is business. Understand what your business is and what you do well. Number 5 is roles and titles. Understanding your role can ultimately help you understand your responsibility. Number 6 on our list is business objectives. Understanding your business objectives can lead to a steady path moving forward. Number 7 is finance. Understanding your finances can lead to future growth and stability. Number 8 is operations. Are you and your partner on the same page with the tools, software, and product that you need to run your business effectively? Number 9 is retail, office, and transportation. What are your needs today and what are your needs a year from now? Discuss those with your partners to effectively prepare. Number 10 is sales and marketing. You have to feed the business, and sales and marketing is the food. Make sure you and your partner are on the same page. Guys, that about does it for our video today. Hopefully you found some value. And if you did, please like the video and definitely leave a comment below and tell me some of your horror stories when it comes to your partnerships and maybe some successes. As always, I post to this channel every single week, so hit that notification bell and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Again, guys, I always say it, if you give it advice, charge a price. And until next time, guys, peace.